was weird. OBS being OBS, I guess. I don't know. It was a little bizarre, but thanks for bearing with me there for a few minutes. Folks, sorry about that. Let's see. What was I going to do? Yes. In the Teespring shop. No snow outside. Must be nice. It's kind of been doing the snow flurry thing off and on the last few days. I mean, we're not sitting on a pile of it or anything, but it's plenty cold. Unfortunately. So, but that's winter in Indiana. Hey, Paul Baker's here. What's up, buddy? How are you? Paul Baker and Dave Escobar is here. Dave, that amp is ungodly loud. Let's see. Serenity Guitars, Charles 75N, OG. Let's see. Colorado. The snow's melted in Colorado? Really? Weird. Must be global warming. Matt Stingray, Alan Scherer's here. What's up, man? Yeah, you've been a little quiet here the last few months, I think. So hope you're doing well. Colorado Springs, where I'm at, mountains still. Colorado Springs isn't the mountains. I thought like all of Colorado was the mountains. I've been out there a few times, like when I was, when I was a kid. It's been years, but a few times I've been out there as a kid. Colorado Springs, Denver. I mean, from where I was, where I'm from, that's all mountains. So, pandemic has pushed me into lots of overtime, says Alan. I think you must be. I think you mentioned before you're the healthcare industry, I believe. So if you are, please stay safe. And thank you very much for all of your hard work. I never thought I would ever see anything like this in my lifetime. But I don't want to talk about that because that's all anybody's talking about, and that's not why we're here. Serenity Guitars says, hey, in your neck of the woods, you're getting 4 to 6 inches. It could be. I work from home myself, so I honestly don't pay much attention to the weather forecast anymore, especially this time of year. I do plan to run out here this afternoon. That's my plan anyway, is to run out and do a few errands. I got to buy a Ring doorbell, so I got to go run some errands today, and that's it. So, Paul just got an Ampeg Reverb Rocket 50, early 90s. That must be the ones you sent me a picture of the other day. I didn't. That's what I thought it looked like, but I couldn't. I wasn't sure if it was that one or if it was that other Ampeg that you've got, the V504 or something. I can never remember what that thing's called, but I know it's the one that you got for a steal. But regardless, those Ampeg Reverb Rockets, those are great sounding amps. My friend Brett had one for a long time, and when he and I were, I played in bands with him off and on for 10 years now. And one time in particular, we used to practice in his basement, and we'd go over there and practice. And he always, he's a bass player, but he always had an Ampeg. Matter of fact, I think it was that same model, that Ampeg Reverb Rocket 50 half stack set up, and that's what I played through at band practice. Great sounding amp. I was bummed when he sold it. Let's see. Alan says, I am humbled and lucky to be a small part. Thank you, sir. Thank you very, very much. Let's see. Cool guitar gears here. So taking a few minutes from work to tune in. Hope things are going well. They are going well. Had a fairly productive week this week, and VL502. Thank you. I knew it was something like that. I had a fairly productive week this week, and at work that is, and there's no football on this weekend, so I'm going to go run those errands today, and then I'm going to probably spend the remainder of my weekend playing video games or something. So something real productive, right? Let's see. Serenity Guitar says Guitar Build Off 2.0 has officially kicked off. Cool. Sounds like you're building a guitar. Tim Russell says, morning, Robert. What I missed? Good to see you. Good to see you as well. What did you miss? Pretty much absolutely nothing. We're, just hanging out and saying hello to everybody. And, Paul Baker got a new amp. And Paul's actually a personal friend of mine. So, he and I were, he texted me a photo of it the other day. So we were talking about that a little bit. And we've thanked Alan for his services on the front lines during the times that we're living in. So everybody else, please make sure and thank Alan as well. And anybody else that's in the healthcare industry for that matter. And that's really about it. So, while I'm thinking about it, though, if you guys wouldn't mind supporting the channel, if you would like to support the channel anyway, there's a tip jar right there on the screen that you can do so through. You should be able to do that through OBS, or if you're on the OBS, or you can click the little dollar sign down there in the bottom, or you can go down to the description section below this video and use the PayPal link, whichever one you would like to do. And if you don't want to, that's okay too. But all support is greatly appreciated. That money basically, that money goes into buying gear, things for me to demo for you guys, basically. That's what most of that does. Let's see. Alan, share opinion on high-end boutique cables. They really affect/improve the sound to justify the cost. It depends. I think it depends on the cable, really. In the instance of Mogami cables, there's you're gonna hear a lot of different theories on this, and I think the basic theory at the heart of it was, at the end of the day, it's copper wire. That's it. It's copper wire. So. Christopher Morrow says I could take a hint. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate it. At the end of the day, it's copper wire. But, if you get really down into the nitty-gritty of it, there are some people out there that tell you that there are different, different blends of different alloys, and, some alloys are more pure than others, which affect how well the guitar signal is carried through said copper wire. I'm not an expert on that. At the end of the day, I think copper wire is copper wire. While I'm sure there is some truth to it, how much, one purity of the alloy affects, affects guitar signal versus the other, that I don't know. I've never been able to test that before. I think really what you're paying for when you get into the higher end cables, and this is especially true with I think Mogami cables, what you're paying for is build quality. Build quality and durability, because Mogami cables, I mean, you got to run over those things with a lawnmower to kill them. They're built extremely well. I've never shorted one out. Never. I've got a pair of Mogami cables that I've had for 15 years, and they've never failed me, and they still work just fine. So, So I think, when you get up into the higher end cables, I think that's really what you're paying for. Now, because I think they're, at the same time though, I mean, much like pedals, there's some pretty inexpensive cables out there that I found to be really, really good quality cables. Like, for example, this cable right here is a brand called Pig Hog. And this thing's rock solid. It's got a big, thick, heavy duty rubber casing on it, heavily insulated. This thing, I think I paid, what's this thing cost? Maybe, $20 tops. This is a 6-foot cable with a couple of angles on it. I've got another pair of 6-foot cables coming out of the back of this Laney that I use just for the effects loop. And those they stay in that amp all the time because, it's just easier. It's a pain in the ass to unplug it, but to get back there and pull them out if I need to. But regardless, I mean, they transmit signal and they seem to be built extremely well. And that's just a pair of Cable Matters cables from Amazon. I think I bought both of those for less than $20 for 2 of them, 6-foot. So, I think there's a misconception. Maybe might even go as far as to call it a myth that you're paying for better signal quality with the higher end cables. Really, you're paying for better build quality. So that's my theory on it. And that was an awful long rant about cables. Sorry about that. Let's see where else are we here in the chat? Oh yeah, I want to say I think did Tim Russell. Hitting up the PayPal fund. Thank you, sir. Thank you very, very much. And also, if you've been hanging out on the live streams here lately, you know that I'm working real hard and saving everything I can because I want to finally buy my Les Paul Custom this year. That is my ultimate goal. And if you help contribute to that, I'll let you play it. Paul and Scott Manning are probably going to be the you guys get to play it anyway, but just because you guys are close, you guys are local, and I know both of you. Let's see, DR Guitars is here. Dave looks like popping in real quick. What's up, buddy? Hoping you may already be gone by now, but if you're not, happy Saturday. Let's see, Dave Escobar had an Ampeg 1 Blue Diamond Tolex. Got it so cheap it issues that owner let his cat use it as a little brother. Ugh. Cat Peter looked like it knew when it got hit. Smelled really bad. Sold it quick. Ugh. What a drag. Dave Escobar has owned like literally everything before. Trent Cersoni says, I think I asked you last week if I was pronouncing that right, and I think you said I was, but I could be wrong. Says, I've been looking for some pickups for my Schecter Omen C6. What pickups would you get if you were in my shoes? They could be active, non-active. I don't know, man. What kind of music you playing? What kind of amp you playing it through? What kind of sound are you after? Give me some details, and because if it were me, I mean, just based on what you've given me, I'd tell you to go JB and Seymour Duncan JB and Jazz, just because that pickup set will work. It's my favorite pickup set. Sounds great and it'll work for just about any situation out there. But if you want something specific, Gatorade. If you're not looking for something specific, though, JB and the Jazz is usually a pretty safe go-to pickup set. It is also Seymour Duncan's favorite pickup set, as in Seymour Duncan himself, not the company, but like that's his personal favorite set of pickups. Svenny Guitar says ohms and shielding the length does affect also, but you can do my so much typos. I mean, let me hang a second. Can only do so much on cables. I like Monster cables. Yes, Robert said build quality. Yeah, Monster. I've never been a fan of Monster cables. They just revamped and relaunched their line, but for the longest time, man, I mean, there was guaranteed that they were going to short out. It wasn't a matter of if, it was when. You know, they seem durable, but God, man, when I was a guitar center, man, we swapped those things out on warranty exchanges all the time. Those things were notorious for failing. Charles 75N says when it comes down to how good a guitar cable is, really comes down to the quality and durability of the solder joints and how well they are protected. Yep, I agree completely. Lumen Opie says looks like he needs a dang, not a ring. I don't understand what that means. Cables. Paul Baker says cables make more difference than most people think. They do. You know, if you get a bunch of short lengths strung together through a pedal board and all that kind of stuff, yeah, there's absolutely a difference between that and just plugging straight into the amp. You know, and that's an experiment anybody can test out. You know, my amp's guitar tone always sounds different. You know, whenever I'm on its own. Anyway, whenever I'm running it through a bunch of pedals and cables and stuff like that, which is one reason why I've kind of backed off on having a gazillion different pedals on my pedal board in front of me. Dave Escobar says, I agree. I've had good luck on those cheapy pig hog cables. Yep, they're, I don't want to call them cheapy, but they're definitely inexpensive. But they seem to be built well. I bought several of them. Paul Baker said also, I've found that a different speaker can almost make it sound like you bought a new amp. Also tubes. Speakers, yes. I mean, that's which, speakers have a lot more effect on your overall tone, I think, than anybody else, than anything else in your signal chain. That's just reality. Which makes sense because as Glenn Fricker explained recently, that's where the sound comes out. Tubes, on the other hand, I used to think the same thing, and then I saw Glenn's video on tubes, and and it got me to thinking. Every time I've swapped out tubes, have I really noticed that much of a difference before? And I don't know that I can honestly say that I have. I think it's maybe more placebo effect, than anything for me. So I mean, plenty of people disagree with that, but that was a pretty interesting experiment. If you haven't seen that video, I strongly encourage you to go watch it. Scott Manning says, I'd love to have a Les Paul one day myself, but damn the price. Oh, I thought you'd had like 4 of those things at least, like laying around. A guitar player your stature, I know you're more of a super strat Ibanez kind of guy anyway, but super strat. Let's see. Last name is pronounced Cerconi. Okay. Almost got it. Dennis O'Rourke in the super chat says, I've been using a Boss Wireless unit for everything lately because I was sick of having to take off my guitar when I had to get up to take a leak. I've done that as well, and I've got matter of fact, I've got a Line 6 G10, and when I really originally bought it, I bought it really specifically for that, and then my recording setup started getting more and more elaborate, and I don't know, maybe I'll just go back. I may end up going back to using it again anyway. Just they say the wireless stuff interferes with signals, signal stuff when it comes to recording, but I don't know if that's, I don't know how much truth there actually is to any of that. I may give that a, I may try that out just to be safe, because I hate cables. I really do. I hate having this freaking, this is a mic boom that I've got them all holding on, or all hanging on, and there's just, I hate them. There's no way to, there's no good way to store them. There's no good way to keep them, clean, and looking nice, and all that. I hate them. I hate cables. They're obviously, we got to have them, obviously, so I can't avoid them, but they're ugly. Matt Stingray says, inexperienced with solar guitars, just picked one up and it's awesome. I have not. I haven't played one yet. My understanding, of course, that's Ola's brand. Cool Guitar Gear, who is, I don't know if he's still hanging out here in the chat or not. He may have had to get back to his regular life, get back to work here today. But he he's actually referred a lot of companies to me who've sent me gear, and I know Solar Guitars is one of them. I think he actually reached out to Ola, who's, because I think he received one a while back, but nothing ever became of it, which is fine. I haven't played one yet. My understanding is they are basically, there's not a whole lot of difference between the Solar guitars and the old Washburn Parallax guitars that Ola was playing prior to starting Solar guitars. So now I don't know if how much truth there is of that, but my understanding is it's just about the almost the identical, exact same designs, built in the same factory by the same people. So, like I said, that I have not been able to verify yet, but they sure look awfully close. That said, I've heard a lot of good things about them. Most people that buy them seem to really like them. I've heard that as they've gotten more popular, of course, their production has ramped up, and when that happens, sometimes quality seems to struggle a little bit. And take a dip. So I have heard of some people that have, that have gotten some, some units with some bad QA stuff. How easily it may have been fixed, I don't know. I didn't see them in front of me, but that seems to happen with import guitar companies. They kind of they get really, really good quality when they start out, and then the production really takes off because word gets out, and then QA dips for a little bit. Then it'll then they straighten it back out and slow down production, and so that happens. Especially with import stuff. I'd like to try. Matter of fact, I'd love to try it. There's a couple of models that I would really, really like to get my hands on, but it hasn't happened yet. I may try to reach out to those folks here myself this year and see if they might not be interested in letting me give one a whirl. But also because I'm a pretty average guitar player at best. There's also a lot of guitar companies that are really, really leery of sending me a guitar anyway. Let's see. Cool Guitar Gear says I haven't played the Quad Cortex yet, but I've been hearing a lot of good things, and it can capture drives and distortions. They demoed this on Anderton's, and the Quad did very well. Yeah, that Quad Cortex thing is gaining a whole lot of popularity. I mean, it's not my thing, as you guys know. I'm not an effects processor kind of guy, and I'd never even heard of that company before this thing came out. So, or at least before they announced it. But it's a lot of people are. A lot of people are pretty excited about it. So, Dennis O'Rourke says Matt Stingray, in regards to the Solar guitars, says they're amazing. I have 3 of them. So, there you go. I know Sean. I can't remember his last name at the moment. Truck driver Sean. He's got a small YouTube channel. I think he's got he's on Solar's artist list, and he's got half a dozen or so, and he swears by them. So I know he's been really happy with them. JG Mopar. Oh, that reminds me. Speaking of JG Mopar and Alan Scherer both hitting up the PayPal fund. Thank you very, very much, gentlemen, to both of you. That's Les Paul money, and you both now get to play it. Let's see. Well, not now because I don't have it yet, but when that happens. JG Mopar, speaking of, says preamp tubes make a slight difference. Power tubes, I don't hear it. I don't know. I mean, power tubes are kind of hard to. I don't know because I suppose you could swap them out for swap a set of power tubes out for the same set of tubes in the same family or something. But I mean, you can't really. It's tough to. It's so tough to say. Less. I don't know. I guess actually, yeah, I take that back. Glenn did prove that in his experiment. Because Mesa Boogies can take both 6L6s and EL34s, and he swapped both. Same amp, both different tube types, and not a whole lot of a difference. Not much anyway. A little bit, but not much. It was a pretty enlightening video. I encourage all of you to go check that one out if you haven't yet. Let's see. John McDonald's here. Good morning. I guess for you it'd probably be good evening over there in your part of the world in London. OG says, what's the point of the capture? Maybe for a buddy's pedal. Why do you own, or is it making sound patches? I'm not. Are you talking about the captor? The 2 notes captor? That if I haven't, I'm not sure what you're referring to with that one. Where's mine, by the way? It's right there. Okay. Let's see. Paul Baker says, I find that these days most amps have more than enough gain, so I personally recommend a low to mid output pickup. You get more dynamics and let your guitar sound like your guitar. You have always been an advocate of that. I actually prefer to go the other way. I actually prefer high output pickups on the guitar and turn the gain down on the amp. I like to hear the sound of the amp being pushed hard from the front end from the guitar itself. Yeah, Paul has always been big on hearing the tone of the wood of his guitar. I remember one time you and I had a long talk about that one day back at the store once upon a time, and you told me that then, and because at the time I was looking for a new set of pickups for a guitar that I had at the time, and didn't really know what to get, and you were making some recommendations, and one thing you said to me, you says, I like lower output pickups because I like to hear the sound of the guitar. You on the other hand, you don't really seem like you care that much. And, which you're right, I don't. Okay, this Opie dude is definitely... let me find him. Put users high. And we'll start there. LMN Opie dude needs to go for a while. At least for a while. Repulsion 666 has experience with Yamaha Pacifica 921 with ash body. I can't tell you if I played that specific model or not. I mean, there's a lot of different models of Yamaha Pacificas, but of all the Yamaha Pacificas I have played, and I've gotten my hands on a lot of them. I don't think I've ever found a bad one, ever. If it's in my experience, if it says Yamaha on it, buy with confidence. So especially their guitars. Their guitars are insanely underrated. Let's see. Dennis O'Rourke says, I hate cables too. Always stepping on them, tangling them. Yeah. I can't. It drives me insane. And there's just no good way to keep them anyway. I mean, I suppose I could stuff them in a drawer, but I know what's going to happen if I do that. Then they're going to get all tangled up, and then I'm going to start throwing them across the room, and I don't want to do that either. Cool guitar gear. Hey, you were here for the solar guitars part. He says I really like solar guitars. Best pickups for metal, very flat and clear. I did sell mine to get a Music Man Majesty. Yeah, I'll never. It ain't gonna be Music Man Majesty, or I ain't getting rid of my Majesty. Especially not for solar. So. I would take a solar in addition to my Majesty. My Majesty ain't going anywhere. I take that guitar to bed with me. Let's see. Solar is the best guitar you can possibly get for the price, says Dennis O'Rourke. Paul Baker says, I loved your video on the Bantamp. I've actually done 2 of them. I'm assuming you're talking about the Zombie, because that's the one that went up, I think, Wednesday. So if that's the one you're talking about, thank you. I appreciate it. And that amp has already found a new home. I liked it. I do like it. I just, after they sent me the Jackman a few months ago, and then when I got the Zombie, I was like, okay, I really want to try this thing, but I liked the Jackman, but I'm like, man, that Jackman's been sitting there collecting dust since I did the video on it. I'm never going to use it, and I know the same thing's going to happen with the Zombie. So, as many amps as I've got around here, I don't need those 2. So I decided to move along the Zombie to actually a viewer bought it. And hopefully the Jackman will follow, and then those are going to go toward the Les Paul. Dave Escobar says, regarding Quad Cortex, I finally got an Axe FX Ultra for $450. Wow. I remember when Axe came out, it was the rave. Unless it's a tube amp, I just can't justify spending a ton on tech that's going to get outdated. That is exactly how I feel with modeling stuff. I don't know what that Quad Cortex costs, but something tells me it looks pricey. It doesn't look like it's meant to be competing with, the Line 6 Pod Go. I mean, it looks like it's meant to be competing with, the Axe FXs and the Helixes and the Boss GT1000s and, that stuff. So, Kempers. It's kind of the impression that I've gotten. So, and I'm with you. Spending a bunch of money on that stuff just doesn't make sense to me, because the day is going to come when it's obsolete and the latest and greatest comes out right after it. So, and if you want to see what I mean, check out the 11 rack. From who's making? I don't even remember who was it. DigiDesign. I think it was making it now, or that was making it at that time. I don't remember, but because Avid owns it now, I think. But when that thing came out, man, they were selling for like $1,500, and that like 15 years ago, that was $1,500 went a lot farther than it does now. So, and that was when it came out. Now you can find them used all day long for like $200, maybe $250, maybe. So, and that's just what happens with modeling technology. Alan Jarrett says, I just got a pair of rattlesnake cables from a company based in Missoula, Montana. I really swear when I AB them against my normal braided fender cable. Yeah, I've seen that company advertising on the interwebs quite a bit over the last couple of years. I've never checked them out. Looks like they appear to only sell direct. I don't know if they have any dealers or anything, but um, but they do. They seem to look like pretty decent cables. Alan Scherer says, add the Pictronics Resitron to your weird demo pedal list. Picked up for $100 off musicians Fred Truly Strange on guitar. But yeah, I've that one's actually been on the list for a while because there's some there's there's the Resitron and they've got the Mothership. And both of those. The problem is I haven't found one cheap enough that's been that's made it worth it. So JG Mopar says, how would you compare your JCM 900 to the DSL heads? Depends on which version of the DSL you're talking about. If you're talking about the JCM 2000 DSLs, the 900s were, and again, depending on which version of the 900. If we're talking about the one that I have, which really might not be the best comparison because I've got a dual reverb, but the first year and a half the dual reverbs were made, they came with EL34s, and there's based on what I was talking about earlier with tubes, I have to believe there's probably something different with the circuit that I'm not aware of. But about a year and a half or so into the production of that line, they changed it from EL34s to 5881s, which is basically British 6L6s, and the 5881s actually had more gain and sounded quite they had more gain and sounded a lot different. They were a little bit more. I don't know if they were more scooped out, but the lows and highs were definitely more pronounced. Anyway, so the one that I have is not the traditional dual reverb that most everybody else has. So if you are going to consider the 5881, that's probably the most common one out there. Versus the DSL heads, they're actually both the JCM 2000 DSLs, all the DSLs really, are going to have more gain. I don't. Oof. How would you describe it, man? I don't know, man. I haven't sat down and A/B'd the two side by side in so long. It's been so long. I'm sure I could tell you. I may just have to go do that one of these days. The DSLs, I think, they were designed more for versatility, more than anything, because those amps can do just about anything. They've got a great clean sound on them. They got you can do great rock crunch tones on them. They're great metal amps. They just do a lot. The 900s dual reverbs anyway can do a lot of that stuff too. I just don't know that they can do it quite as well as the DSLs. Jim Woodard says, got my boom. It's on my desk. Thank goodness I was so sick of a desktop mic stand. They are pretty handy. Matter of fact, they're real handy. I don't know that I ever would have known about them. I bought a cheap, it was a condenser mic that I bought on eBay for like $20 or something. I just bought it just to test it. And I went to go look for it the other day. Now I can't even find it, but it was not only for $20. It had the condenser mic in it, but it had the cable, which went straight in the trash, and a few other accessories, and it included this boom stand, which was small, but obviously I found another purpose for it. But I thought about it, and I was like, that's actually pretty handy. So now I've got one here and another one back in my guitar room that both help clear up floor space, so I don't have mic stands sitting around everywhere, which drives me crazy. Jim Woodard says, speaking of gain, I did that crazy video where I overdid the gain to show how how it steals the overall tone of the guitar and amplifier. I didn't see that. I will have to check that out. But I mean, the theory itself is definitely one that I have that I agree with, and one I've grown to practice myself, because I used to turn the gain up all the way on every amp I plugged into. I just, the more gain the better. There's no such thing as too much. And then eventually I was like, man, I don't really need this much. I don't need to hide behind it anymore. And now it's to the point that I can't, I can't differentiate, some of the different notes that I'm playing, because they're all muddied up with too much gain. So I started backing off, and depending on the amp, some amps I run the gain at about 10 or 11 o'clock these days. So what's like some of those Panama amps, my God, those are gain monsters. The 5-watt that I got, that they sent me, before they went out of business anyway. That 5-watt, was, God, that thing's got a ton of gain. I haven't played it in a while, but seriously had the gain set on that thing at like 10, 11 o'clock maybe. Quad Cortex, $16.99. Yep, that's a Helix price. $100 cheaper than the Helix, I guess, but still. No. Was it? He was a Helix. Is that $15.99? Yeah, it's $15.99. I'm thinking the Kemper that's $17.99. So, yeah, it's right in there with those. Yeah, no thanks. Jim Woodard says, you know what doesn't get obsolete? A good old-fashioned simple tube or solid-state amp. Yep. Non-modeling, of course. I agree. And as a matter of fact, I'm not going to reveal any more than what I'm getting ready to say. But I am, in the next week or so, going to be working on a video that is going to prove exactly that. Among other things, but Paul Baker said, man, I need to bring in my Bernie. When'd you get a Bernie? I'm jealous if you got a Bernie. Especially if it's a Les Paul. Always wanted a Bernie Les Paul. Love Bernie guitars. Charles 75N says, I found all these modeling amps have so many choices and options, it's too difficult to dial in a great tone. I absolutely love my PV Bandit Solo Series 65. I think that's kind of a whole nother separate complaint of mine with modeling amps is, they do so much. It's just too hard for me to wrap my brain around all of it, and having an amp that I can model 100 different other amps out of, but I'm likely only going to use 3, maybe 4. Just seems like overkill. I don't know. I think Fender may have gotten the right idea when they made a modeling amp that models one amp. And they did one for the deluxe reverb, one for the twin reverb, and I think they're probably going to come out with another one. They're probably going to come out with another one here soon. Is my understanding. So, the more I think about it, Fender may have made the right move with that. With that Tone Master series. I was skeptical about it at first, but Yeah, Jim. I forgot. Jim has a DSL 40. Says it's awesome. I love it. Won't give it up. You guys, you ought to pull that thing out and you ought to demo that either on your channel or demo it on the show, so people can actually hear it. So I ought to just break down and buy one of those stupid things myself. Actually, I don't need another amp, but those are cool. I really like the new DSLs quite a bit. Savannah Guitar says signal is busy where I am. Signal is bad. I don't know what. I don't know if you're talking about audio, the live stream signal YouTube. I'm not sure what signal you're referring to. Let's see. Everyone I know that has the DSL 40 CR loves them. See, me too. And I've sold several of them as well, and I've never had anybody disappointed. Everybody that's bought them loves them. Matt Stingray says got an EART headless guitar from Amazon recently for $309. I'm very impressed. I was pretty impressed with the one that they sent me as well. I didn't get one of the headless models. They sent me the one that they sent me was a model called the Explorer 1. So, I imagine it's only a matter of time before Gibson sees them for that. But regardless, the one that I got, I was also pretty pleasantly surprised with myself. So for $300, I was very pleasantly surprised. Actually, those are actually pretty well built guitars. He said he was going to send me a headless guitar if I sold. If I sold, because I guess his sister also sells like yoga mats or something, so he's like, he said he'd also send me a headless guitar if I helped his sister sell 3 yoga mats. And I'm like, dude, I've helped you sell a bunch of those guitars already. I'm not. Maybe I had a demo one. Let me see. I think I might see if I can get a hold of one just for kicks. They're coming out with a lot of new models all the time too. So with any luck, maybe they'll come out with a fan fret model. That'd be cool. And Paul Baker says his new Bernie guitar is a Les Paul with a sustainer pickup in the neck. Did that come stock? I'm curious if it did, because I don't know. I know they're owned by Fernandez now, and have been for years. But like back in the '80s, the ones that the vintage ones that a lot of people are after. I don't know if they were owned by Fernandez back then or not. I thought they were their own company, and of course Fernandez also does. I think they also own the Sustainiac pickup. So I don't know. Regardless, if it's a Les Paul with a sustainer in the neck, I definitely need to play that thing. Big Key KII says I love the OD1 and the DSL 40 CR for 80s metal. OD1s are hard to find though, man. They're real hard to find. But yeah, if you got an 80 OD1, absolutely. That's I'd probably use that overdrive in front of it as well. But yep, OD1s are hard to find and expensive when you do find them. Let's see. Picked up a DSL 40 yesterday, says Ben E. Got a good deal, barely used. Feeling it out now. Awesome so far. You're going to love it, man. You are going to love it. Joe Ennis says the Senior Bowl is on the NFL Network. I don't, NFL Network got into their big pissing contest with AT&T, and AT&T finally eventually gave the NFL the finger, and dropped them. So now, I don't get the NFL Network anymore, and I know, I mean, that's kind of become a thing with the cable companies anyway. But the NFL is notoriously very, very heavy-handed to deal with when it comes to negotiations. So I'm quite sure that the NFL was demanding a lot more money than they deserved to get that deal done. And finally, AT&T said, So, yep, we no longer get the NFL Network here where I live. Although I suppose I get it on my phone, but I don't know. I've also kind of learned how to, even as an NFL fan, I don't really need it either. So, Charles 75N says thinking about picking up a Vox V9106 Pathfinder 10. Anyway, I have some experience with this unit. I mean, I'm familiar with the Pathfinder 10. I don't know what the V9106 signifies. I'll tell you, and I talk about this in the video that you guys are going to see tomorrow. But for Vox Pathfinders, for being small, tiny little, really inexpensive practice amps, for there's a contingent of people out there they absolutely love those Vox Pathfinders. People absolutely love those things for some reason. So, and they've been making them forever. So, I wouldn't be afraid of it. I've never played through one, but just based on how I know people feel about Vox Pathfinder. Thrifty Beard says, what's your opinion on crank amps? I just picked up a Rev Junior Pro, and I love it. Crank amps are cool. They're, I remember when they first came out, like when they, when they, or at least when they first started to be discovered, i.e., when Dimebag first started using them and had an endorsement deal with them and all that stuff. All of a sudden, Dimebag's finally playing tube amps. When that happened, that's when, they seemed really, really cool, and there wasn't really anything else out there that was out there like them at the time. It seemed. The Frankensteins, I remember, I thought were really cool, but really temperamental. And we had one. I remember we bought one in at the store, used one, and we bought it in, and I sat down and played through it, just checking it out. And this, real late at night, I was the last one to touch that amp, and I thought it sounded killer. And turned it off, unplugged the guitar out of it, hung it up. Nobody touched it. I was the first one back in there the next morning. I decided to play it again. Plugged up everything, grabbed the same guitar and everything. Plugged it back in, and it sounded completely different from what it sounded like the other night. The night before. I cannot explain it. I don't know what happened. But that amp had a mind of its own. There were some days that it sounded great, and there were some days it sounded not so great. So, but that's not the only model they made. I think it was the Chadwick. I think that was kind of their like modified Marshall Plexi, like hot rodded Marshall Plexi type of amp that sounded real good. And then the Rev 1 Plus, I think, was a high gain metal amp that I liked the most, and those things were gain monsters. As a matter of fact, to this day, that's one of the heavy sounding amps I've ever played. It was a Rev 1 Plus. Savinity Guitar says, PV Wiggy amp, I wish it was back. Not me. I get the inspiration behind it, behind the design and everything, and and it's cool, but I don't know. I couldn't take anybody seriously playing through one of those. Let's see. Ian Nunez is here. You guys got quiet. Hey, if you're just now popping in here and you haven't thought to do so, If you're interested in supporting the channel, you can do so by clicking that little dollar icon down there in the bottom, and it really, really does help out a whole lot, because that money goes towards, basically back towards me buying gear that I can, more gear that I can demo for you guys here on the channel. That's where most of that money goes. So if you were interested in supporting the channel, you can do so that way. You can also hit up the PayPal link down there in the description box down below if you would prefer to eliminate the middleman, as some people have already done here this morning, which is greatly appreciated. And there's also the Teespring shop, which I have pinned up there at the top of the chat. So if you want to buy a t-shirt, you can do that there too. Just as a reminder, as I'm getting caught up, well, I'm just about caught up on comments. Like I said, you guys got quiet all of a sudden. Chrome Crescendo says, "Hi Robert, I had to change my username and delete my old one after someone doxed me on a message board I was on. People must be bored to want to dox little old me. Glad to be back as a subscriber." Welcome back, dude. I don't know what your old screen name may have been, but regardless, welcome back. I'm not sure how you may have been doxed, but that ain't cool. And I can't tell you that I've been innocent in that before in the past. I did one of my Know Your Troll videos. I let a dude get under my skin a little bit too much, and I made the mistake of posting the link to his Facebook page right there on the screen. So I had to go back and edit that and take that out, which was not cool. So, but lesson learned. So. Jim Woodard in the super chat says, "Get a diet soda on me. Love my new ES335. I had to do a freaking video on that. Time for me to do a bunch of gear demos." You got the tools for it now, man. You ought to be. I know I'm subscribed. I think I should be subscribed to your channel. I know I'm subscribed to the. Assuming you're uploading to the Practical Guitars channel anyway. Regardless. Yeah, that ES335 that you bought that thing is a looker. That is a good looking guitar, man. I'm glad you like it. Off the amp topic. What is all the hate for Mike Fuller / Fulltone guitars? Last summer, in the middle of all of the, and this is as close to political as I am ever going to get on this channel. During all of the Black Lives Matter protests that were going on all over the country, he posted a something on Twitter, basically expressing, in no uncertain words, his distaste of all of, basically he felt the same thing everybody else felt, which was, he was it was sad to hear about all of the, the riots that were going on around those things, with the, businesses getting, storefronts getting smashed in and looted and all that kind of stuff. That's what he was upset about. However, and there would have been nothing wrong with that. However, and he followed that up with another tweet that I can't remember what the exact words were, but basically what it turned into, he was. I think he kind of let his emotions get the best of him a little bit too much, as Zoe starts going crazy over nothing. I think he let his emotions kind of get the best of him, because I don't remember the exact words he said, and I'm not going to try to repeat it, but he was basically it's when some people misunderstood what he said the first time. They, of course, they kind of started protesting. They spoke up, and he was getting a lot of heat for it, and rather than clarify himself, I think he ended up calling his, all of his customers a bunch of wussies, except that's not the word that he used. Um, so, he insulted his own customer base, and that's really what set people off even more. Um, so it was just a lousy situation from the get go, and it wasn't handled very well by um, all parties involved, to be honest with you. But that's what that was about. Most of it seems to have largely died down. I haven't really seen too much Fulltone hate since then. He did get dropped by a number of dealers though because of that. Dave Escobar says, "I love Diet Dr. Pepper." In response to Jim's purchase of a diet soda for me, I do too. That's actually one of my favorite. My favorite diet soda right now is Diet Cherry Pepsi, but I can't freaking find it anywhere. I don't know, if that's one of the things that COVID affected production. I can't find it at a store anywhere. It's always sold out. Joseph Austin says, "Keep up the reviews, Robert. Like the use of the looper to show the dials at work." Thank you, sir. I imagine you might be talking about the Donner. Was the Donner Circle looper that I did. I tried to, if you guys remember, if you've been following my channel for a while, if you watch my older demos, even when I would do just a demo of just the pedal itself, I would, play a few riffs and then, tweak the knobs, and play a few more riffs and tweak the knobs, and, and it was, which I enjoyed doing, but I decided to experiment one time and just ran a looper into a pedal and stuck a camera on it and just showed the full range of all the knobs back and forth one at a time. And I was surprised when you guys came back and said that, you really liked, seeing the demo that way, and it was, apparently told you guys a lot more about the pedal than the other method did. So, so I kept doing it. And, it's also resulted in, my videos kind of being shortened down a little bit more now down to, 8-10 minute range a little bit more often. So, obviously shorter videos are easier for most everybody to watch. But also, for some reason, it doesn't seem to matter how long of a video I put up. Most of you guys seem to click off about halfway through it anyway, regardless of how long it is. Oh well. Jim Woodard says we need to have you back on the show. Yeah, I would love to be back. I'd love to come back on the show with you guys one time. Let me know when. Especially if you guys, not next Sunday because that's Super Bowl Sunday. And, well, let's see. Well, tomorrow's the Royal Rumble, and so I'm effectively unavailable because as a diehard WWE fan, I am watching the Royal Rumble. Next Sunday's the Super Bowl, but after that, my Sundays will free up quite a bit. Sunday evenings, assuming that's when you guys still record. So, let me know, and I will put it in my calendar. Chrome Crescendo says, Robert, have you ever played a Line 6 Variax guitar? I have. I played a couple of them. The first run of the Line 6, that Line 6 put out of the Variax, and ones that had I think you had to have two cables for them. You had to have a regular instrument cable, and then it was a MIDI cable. I think it was a proprietary MIDI cable too. You couldn't just go buy any old MIDI cable. You had to have theirs. But you had to have two cables that plugged into it, and it was far more of a pain in the ass than it was worth. When the James Tyler versions came out, you just need a regular old instrument cable for those. Then they seem to be a lot more practical. But again, modeling technology stuff, on the inside of those, they're gonna, the day's gonna come, and those are obsolete too. So, E. Nunez says, I just upgraded my Pedal Train Pro with a one-spot CS12 power supply. Ripped off all the Velcro and now using 3M Dual Lock. That stuff is pretty cool. That 3M Dual Lock is like indestructible. That said, I moved away from Velcro altogether on my pedal boards, and I've gone strictly to cable straps, cable ties, and no more messy. The Velcro's messy. Especially when you go peeling it off and on, pedals and stuff, and it's just, I can't. I know, I got tired of, messing with Velcro. Couldn't stand it. And in order, to do it right, you've got to spend the money on the really expensive stuff, because the regular cheap stuff won't do it. So. JG Mopar says, hey, Robert, an experience with the PV VTM heads. I'm familiar with them. They're really, I know they're still really popular today. Every time any video that I put out about greatest amps this, greatest amps that one is almost always mentioned in the comments. Almost always. Those things are still really popular. I bet you if PV ever decided to reissue them, they would make a killing on those things. That said, I don't know that I have ever played one. I've heard them. People love them, and I think from what I've heard, they sound good, but I don't think I've ever played one, unfortunately. I understand that they are also absolute boat anchors. So if you're gonna play one of those out of the gig, you got to eat your Wheaties, because it ain't easy lugging one of those around. Brandon Aldridge says, how do you feel about orange amps? I don't hear you talk about them too often, and would you be willing to demo one from metal if you could happen upon one? No, actually, I like orange amps as much as anybody else does. I guess some of it depends on the model. There's a stretch there when everybody and their brother was, just had to have a Tiny Terror. And the Tiny Terrors, they're good amps, they're okay, but they never blew my socks off, But I do really, really like the Rockaverbs, and the Thunderverb actually is one of my all-time favorite amps. I'd love to have a Thunderverb 200 if I could find one, because now they're out of production. That is, and the Thunderverb is like probably the second heaviest sounding amp that I've ever heard. So the thing with orange amps, though, they're really, really dark sounding. That's not a bad thing, but they're really, like, they're darker sounding than Mesa Boogie, dark sounding. So so sometimes you got to figure out ways to kind of boost the high end up out of them a little bit more. No, I like orange amps. I think they're great, and they're unique, and they got a lot of good things about them. But realistically, though, like I said, unless it was a Thunderverb, unless it was a Thunderverb that somebody were giving me, I'd probably, there's other things out there that I would probably choose first. So I don't, so I like them. I like them a lot. They're great amps. I have nothing negative to say about them. They're just not the first ones on my radar, I guess, is all. So would I be willing to demo one if one came my way? Yes, absolutely. I think I may have even reached out to him once or twice before in the past, though, and I've never gotten a response out of him. So JG Mopar says, I like orange amps. I have Dark Terror and Brent Hines Terror. Dark Terror is cool. Dark Terror actually Dark Terrors were cool. I like those quite a bit. And then there was, what was the bigger one of those they made? It was the Dual Dark, I think is what it was called. I don't know if it's still being made or not, but that one would be that'd be a cool. I wouldn't mind owning that one either. Actually, now that I think about it. One thing with the orange, though, for the most part, though, their clean tones suck. They're not much of. They're not known for. They're not the cleanest sounding amps in the world. At least none that I've played. But I also don't know anybody that's ever bought an orange amp for the clean tone. So. Dave Escobar says new Epiphone redesigned ES335 looks cool. If I find a used one or a return, I might get one. I didn't know that they designed Epiphone redesigned the ES335. Wonder if that means that they're doing away with the Dot and what is the Epiphone? The Dot, the Sheridan, and what's the third one of those that's based off of that? I think it's the Riviera. Thrifty Beard says I picked up an Ibanez Zyphos blue-green chameleon for $600 after watching your guitar collection video. It was awesome sounding, but super uncomfortable to play. Ended up selling it for about $900. Yep, that's about right. I'm surprised you found one. You were able to pick one up for $6 because those guitars they haven't been worth that in a while. They're actually pretty hard to find. I'm surprised to see people sell them too, though. They're when they do pop up, especially the first round, like the blue chameleon or the blue chameleon one, like I have, and then they also did a red chameleon at the same time. The later ones I think are a little bit easier to come by, like just they have one that was just a black one, and the finishes weren't quite as cool. Charles 75N, Dave Escobar, or Charles 75N says. Just subbed to Dave Escobar's and Jib Woodard's channels. Thank you, sir. You guys should all subscribe to those guys' channels. Let's see. Joseph Austin says check out the Ibanez Artcore series. I just bought the AS93 FM. My opinion, much better than the Eppies. I've always thought they were actually they're great good guitars, but I always kind of thought they were right on par. With the Epiphones. Let's see. Now I'm behind in the chat. Chrome Crescendo says Coke Zero for the win. I drank Coke Zero for a long time. Like not long after it first came out. I don't think they even had cherry Coke yet. I think cherry's on strike during COVID because I can't even find Coke Zero. Cherry Coke Zero. Oh well. Jim says Robert's been on the channel a few times. We refer to him for his professional opinion. We've had a few folks on there. You guys have had people on there with whose opinion matters a lot more than mine. I think you guys have Thomas Blug and Michelangelo Badio and any number of other people that big name people that I can think of. Those are the two that the first two that came off the top of my head. Guitar Max, you guys had Max on there once, I believe. So. Rondo Bondo's here. Welcome, sir. Ian Nunez says, I cannot find McCormick's Grill-Mate Brazilian Steakhouse flavor anymore either. Think it might be COVID related too. Is my favorite. I actually got a bottle of that. Found a bottle of that stuff during COVID last summer. I bought one then. I haven't needed to buy it since because I still have it. But regardless, yeah, even the grocery business is hurting because of this pandemic. Production's down all over the place. So we need to talk about all the yays and boos of the last NAMM. So you're going to force me to go sit down and watch a bunch of, a bunch of. My phone has been getting flooded with alerts with, Ibanez's new product line, BC Rich's new product line, Gibson's new product line, Epiphone's new product line, new Fender's new product, from all these different channels that I subscribe to. And, when it was just, one or two or three, I was like, okay, cool. I'll sit down and watch them here when I got a couple minutes, and now there's probably 30 or 40 of them on there from all these guys. And I'm like, I don't have a whole day to sit down and watch YouTube videos. So you're going to force me to do my homework. It sounds, but that's okay. Tim Jenkins 502 says ices the made in Japan guitars from Jackson and Charvel have for 2021. Question mark. I'm not sure what you're asking me there. Forgive me. I don't understand what you're asking me. JG Mopar says wrestling. I haven't been able to watch wrestling since late 90s. Roddy Piper was my favorite wrestler in the 80s. Hot Rod was pretty awesome, man. Unfortunately he passed away. I don't know. He's been gone quite 10 years, but it's been several years since he passed. But I've been a lifelong fan my entire life. Still, one of my favorite things to do is make dinner on Monday nights and sit down on the couch and eat my dinner or watch Raw and just sit and chill and relax. That's still one of my very favorite things to do. Matt Stingray says, have you tried any of the Donner mini pedals? They offer a really good value for money. I haven't tried any specifically. They've sent me a couple. They sent me the Circle Looper here most recently, and they sent me another. They sent me an EQ pedal about. It's been a while now to think about it. Man, maybe that was about a year ago. So, yes, they did. They did send me. They've sent me a couple, and I've been pretty impressed with. For the most part, anyway, I've liked what they've sent me. Maybe not the greatest pedals in the world, but they're certainly they're not bad. There's nothing wrong with them. Nothing wrong with them by any stretch. Yeah, they seem to contact me every now and again when they want me to demo something, and we'll see. I was not real impressed with the drum sounds on the Circle Looper when I demoed that, and I had to express that in the video, and I told them about that in advance. I was going to do that, before I put it up, and they didn't. They said, well, they didn't have any complaints about it, and so regardless. A lot of, that video still got a lot of views and, had a lot of positive feedback. So a lot of other people seem to like the sounds of it. Maybe it was just me, but yeah, no, they, overall, I think they make pretty good stuff. Tim Jenkins 502 says, have you seen the prices of the made in Japan Jacksons and Charvels for 2021? They cost as much as a USA guitar. That's what you're asking me. Yeah, I have, and Japanese guitars have been that way for several years now. Even Korean made guitars are creeping up around $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500, pretty regularly these days. So. Some of that's due to inflation, and a lot of it's due to inflation, but. Again, I don't want to. It's kind of dangerous treading into this territory because I'm trying to avoid any political opinions that that I may have on the matter. But there are, it's inflation, import export tariff stuff has affected it a lot. So. But I mean, Japanese craftsmanship with guitars has always been, considered as quality-wise about as top-notch as anything made in the U.S. So it was only going to be a matter of time before they got as expensive as stuff made here. So, which is also now why you're seeing the older made in Japan stuff starting to climb in value quite a bit. Let's see. JG Mopar says the MIJ guitars are awesome. I prefer them over USA builds. In some cases, I don't know that I would like with like especially like back in the '90s, the '80s and '90s. I don't know that the Jackson Charvel stuff was better than the USA stuff, but it was at least as good. And you used to be able to buy that stuff dirt cheap on the used market, but like I said, now the last few years, not anymore. The world has discovered MIJ guitars. Thoughts about the Kramer Dave the Snake Sabo guitar? I thought it looks really cool. Totally 80s. About time somebody put out a signature guitar for that guy, to be honest. He's been I think he played Kramer once upon a time back in the early '90s, but yeah, he's I of course I haven't played one yet, but I'm just glad to see that Gibson's actually taking the Kramer brand seriously. It was that first right after they bought him, that first line of garbage Kramer guitars that they put out with them, they were absolute complete garbage. And I mean, it was a slap in the face to the entire industry, is what it was. It was, I mean, I'm still mad thinking about it. Weird. Joseph Austin says, for whatever reason, orange amps are more expensive here than Mesa's. I don't know what part of the world you're in, but both of those brands, well, new and used, actually, I guess, seem to be pretty close in price here, at least in my part of the world here in the U.S. Seem to. Let's see. Big Key says I used to have an orange number 4 Jim Root. Which are supposed to be pretty cool amps. And of course, he's been a diehard Orange Rocker player for as long as I can recall. Robert, did you get your Mode 4 at home yet? I did. I'm going to work on that this week, I believe. He says Kyle Bull has a pretty awesome YouTube channel. I've seen the name. I know I'm in the same. I'm in a couple of guitar groups with him on Facebook, but I don't know anything else about him. So, okay, 1 second here. Whoa. What is going on? The reason why I hate cables. Let's see here. Jim Woodard says those Epiphone 335s are so beautiful. I have a Gibson, but if I didn't, I'd buy one of those in a heartbeat. I may, I'll check them out. I'm not a semi-hollow body kind of guy. I don't know what I would do with a semi-hollow body guitar. See, Jim Woodard. That's right. You said Steve Stein as well. I forgot. You guys all said Steve Stein on there. I love that guy, man. I love that guy's channel. He's got a few different channels, but he's probably my favorite guitar instructional guy on YouTube. I've learned a lot from him. Ringhard says, "Hi Robert, do you have any favorite amp sim plugins?" I use a few. You know, I've got Amplitude 4, which apparently was just replaced with Amplitude 5. I've got Amplitude 4 that's got just about everything in it that I could possibly need, and what's the name of that? I can never remember the name of it. ML Sound, I think, or ML Audio. They're the company that just came out with Fluff's signature amp sim. You know, and I got the free version of that, which was one of his 5150 amps, I think, and that one actually sounds great. But I don't really use amp plugins too much. I use IRs, cabs. I use Wall of Sound a lot. And I do use cab sims for bass, recording bass quite a bit. But for guitar, I don't really use them too much because I've got this Laney IRT Studio sitting here in my studio rack, and it's a all tube amplifier that goes direct into my interface and doesn't require it's got a built-in load box, so I don't have to worry about attenuation or having a load box messing with it, to keep it from blowing up because it's got it built in. So, because of that, and I really like the sound of that amp as well. So, because of that, I'm actually able to just use that amp, that actual guitar amp, to record silently. So, that's why I don't really use amp sims too much. Every now and again I will, just to change it up, but for the most part, I don't really need them. So, at this point in time, that could very well change, as I have learned. Tim Jenkins 502 says, "Speaking of Michelangelo Badio in fall of 2019, I played a show with him, and he was chatting with him about his Dean guitars. He let me play one, and then went on a rant about how gear doesn't matter. Realistically, to some people it doesn't. He's never, he's got his signature, guitars and stuff, and now he's actually promoting a small independent company. I don't know if he's still. I don't know if his Dean deal ended or if it's just something he's doing on the side. I'm not sure. And I can't. Sawtooth Guitars, I think is the name of it. And really, with the exception of the guitars, he's never really been much of a gearhead. And he's good enough. He really doesn't have to be. But he plays an old, plays Marshall DSLs, and very, very minimal pedals. Very minimal pedals. He's got a line of signature pedals with Tom's Line, of all people. A really, really inexpensive pedal company on Amazon. But so he's got those, and I think he actually does use them. So his gear is actually really pretty minimalist. Everything with him, it's all about his playing and his technique, and of course for him which with him, there's not very many people that have these when you're that good of a guitar player. So I see what he was saying when he said that to you. I've always, this isn't an excuse. I've just always been upset, not obsessed, but I've always been fascinated with the gear itself. and that's why this is a gear channel and not a guitar playing channel. So the truth is, from a career perspective, I've always been much better at selling it than I've ever been at playing it anyway. So I enjoy playing it. I always do. I play guitar just about every video that I make. When I played in bands and all that kind of stuff. But I know my limits. I know what I'm capable of and what I'm not capable of, and this channel's always been about gear, because that's really where my strength is. So. Oh, there you go. I see in a later comment you mentioned the sawtooth thing. So I'm not sure where that was. It's actually kind of funny because I remember when he was on Practical Guitars with Jim and David, and he said it was pretty funny because he can he tours all over the country and all over the world, and sells out just about every single venue. Or at least has a really, really good turnout just about every venue that he plays in. Except in Chicago, his hometown, where he's from and where he lives. So he can sell out venues all over the place, anywhere he goes, except for his own town. And I got to assume that's just because he had, everybody there probably knows him, and they've all seen him play 1,000 times. So that's probably why he has a hard time in his own city. Rondo Bono is going to Texas Roadhouse today. Cool. I love that place. Jim Woodard says our dollar is weakening against the yen as well, which is also true. Also why their guitars are becoming more expensive to us. Advanced economics. Kobe Out says the Japanese have been making string instruments for 4,000 years. I think they have this down. I guess the real issue is paying what the instrument is worth no matter where it comes from. That is true, although, they really didn't get into making guitars, at least mass producing them, until, like the 60s or so. And there's a lot of people, a lot of old school guitar players who were around in that era that will tell you, like a lot of those guitars from, Japanese-made guitars from that era, like the Taiscos and, stuff like that, were pure garbage. And I've seen some from that era that were, that I would not own. They got it down. They figured it out. That's obviously not the case anymore. But in the 60s, Japanese-made guitars were a little rough. Sebastian Chung says, I stopped playing guitar for 7 years. I just got back recently, and I'm horrified to see the ESP guitars are now about $3,000 to $4,000 US. Yeah, well, a lot of ESP guitars had been priced like that for a while. They came out with their E2 line, which is, those are also still made in Japan, but those are really like more production models, and those can be had, those can be had for probably as low as, I think I've seen them as low as $1,800 recently, 18 to the mid twos. So those are the next notch down from the actual, a guitar that actually says ESP on the headstock. That's their top notch custom. They're not all custom shop, at least not by definition, but they might as well be. Joseph Austin says the LTDs are over $1,000 now. They have been for a while for some of the higher end ones like the EC1000s. The nicer ones, anyway. Alex Thorpe is here. It says, Robert, lots of big guitar stores in the UK have sold out of USA guitars like Fender and Gibson, maybe because of the lockdown. Are they still open for business and building? Thanks. Yeah, as near as well, yes. I've communicated with our Fender rep back and forth a few times over the last month or so, anyway, about various different things. I mean, they're still up. They're still operating and everything, but there's restrictions that they got to follow. Especially out in California. There's restrictions they got to follow that's slowing things down. Which is, again, they're not alone in that boat. That's been the case for just about everybody. And not just in our industry. Where am I? Rondo Bondo says, I'm currently looking for a matchless. I haven't seen a matchless amp in I don't know how long. I couldn't even tell you where to buy a new one. I don't know if they're still direct or I don't even know who carries them. Give me a minute here, folks. I'm gonna get caught up in the chat. Dave Escobar says, I used to buy Kramer Focuses at pawn shops for $100, $250. Bought one on the day with a cracked neck for $50. The real Floyd on the guitar was worth more than that. That's my Kramer Focus was given to me. I've got a Focus 84, Focus 1000, and mine was actually given to me because a friend of mine bought it years before that, to try to learn guitar, and he didn't stick with it. It literally sat in an attic for years, and then finally he gave it to me because he knew I played guitar. So I went through and set it up, and at that time that I received it still wasn't worth a whole lot, but now I'm seeing people paying $600-700 for that thing. So you're right, it actually came with an original, with a real original Floyd Rose on it and a Brazilian rosewood fretboard. And the stock pickup that came in, I swapped out the pickup. I still have it, but sitting in the case. But the original pickup isn't in it. But even then, the stock pickup that did come in it actually was pretty decent. So even for when that guitar came out, it was designed as a student model. So. You sure wrong. Joseph Austin says I can find some used Charvels for around $400 bolt-on necks. BC Rich bolt-on necks. Bolt-on neck ones around $200. Unless it's a gunslinger, because all BC Rich, the gunslinger is really their only actual bolt-on neck model. All the rest of those guitars were designed as neck through. They had bolt-on versions that were made to be more inexpensive versions of them, but for the most part, most of the BC Rich stuff is all neck through, and especially the neck through stuff from the '80s, you can't find it anywhere. I've been looking for years. Where are all the USA Warlocks from the '80s? I think Lita Ford and CC DeVille. I've heard that both Lita Ford and CC DeVille have been hoarding them for years because I can't find them anywhere. Sebastian Jong says, what happened to BC Rich in the past 7 years? They nearly collapsed and got bought over by someone else, didn't they? What happened, they didn't, they were owned by Davitt and Hanser for years. I don't know how long, Davitt and Hanser owned them for quite a while. After Bernie Jr., I think, after he sold the company, I think he sold them direct to, so it was Class X was before them. Yeah, so I think, if memory serves, he sold them to Davitt and Hanser back in, I don't know, late 90s, early 2000s, maybe, I don't remember. But it was a long time. And Davitt and Hanser decided that, they wanted to bring in a new management company to run the BC Rich brand. That management company was called Praxis. And, to run the import stuff anyway. And Davitt and Hanser were still going to be over the only USA stuff that they were producing at that time was custom shop stuff. So, anyway, Praxis was not the right fit for BC Rich at all, and and you're right. That's they damn near ran it straight into the ground. It just wasn't a good fit for that brand. But they got bought out. My understanding is actually, one of the new current owners is Zoltan Bathory from Five Finger Death Punch, who was a long time BC Rich endorser, and he jumped around a little bit since then. But when the opportunity came up to buy into BC Rich, he jumped on it. So, and now that they've fixed a lot of problems, and they're back to being almost all made. I think, if not all of them, are now made in Korea. They're more expensive now. They're pretty much all of them are up over between $1,500. But I haven't bought one yet, but that's kind of another thing I hope to be able to do in the next year or two. But they are they seem to be pretty sweet, man. So I guess they just announced a new line for this year as well. I haven't checked it out yet, but yeah, no, BC Rich guitars nowadays, buy with confidence. Rondo Bondo said, "Did you know John Cruz from Fender is working for Dean Guitars now?" I didn't know where he landed. He got fired from Fender last year, and over. I think it had something to do. I think he posted his political opinions in the wrong place or something, and the company didn't like it. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's true or not. I think that's what I heard. Again, I don't know if there's any truth to it or not, so I don't want to be responsible for any rumors, but that is my understanding of how that went down, and unfortunately, Fender let him go over it. So he'd been with. I mean, he was one of their master builders for a long time. So I had heard that he was actually starting his own company, though. I didn't know that he went to Dean. So with that guy's track record, any major guitar company on the planet would hire him in a heartbeat. So I'm sure he likely had his pick, and got to go with wherever whoever was making the best offer. Joseph Austin says, "What I like about your channel is you aren't a commercial like some others." There's an element to it that, at the end of the day, my with gear demos anyway, my channel's there for two reasons. Provide information and to be entertaining. Really, that's it. That is what I hope to provide. Sorry. That's what I hope to provide to the people that subscribe to and watch my videos. One of those two elements, if not both. So, some videos accomplish it pretty well. Some videos accomplish one more than the other. Some videos do neither. So, that's what it's about. But there does come a point when you got to start focusing a little bit more on. That's like this tip jar right here, that I'm promoting down there in the corner that I've been talking about on this live stream. That's why I'm grateful for the for the support that I get from you guys. Here, when we do this every week, and like I said, it's my responsibility to make sure that money goes back into where it needs to go to. but it gets expensive pretty quick. Like you can't, at least I can't, uh, you know, do it on my own without some help. So, the truth is, I think there's really a strong misconception out there about a lot of a lot of YouTube creators, be it in the guitar channels or otherwise, that are there seems to be a lot of people that think that there's a little bit more, they're more biased than they really are, and that's really not the case. So, mm, no, Dave Escobar is going out to grab barbecue for lunch. Have a good weekend, Dave. Let's see here. Joseph Austin says where those old Japanese Taiscos are going for a lot of money to hipsters, hipsters and um, the crowd that's into like offsets and stuff. Yeah, they seem to be into that kind of stuff. I don't know why. Christopher Morrow says, you into vinyl, Robert? I recently started going down that rabbit hole. Just curious if I'm the only one. No, I'm not a vinyl guy. I got a couple of vinyl records hanging up. There's a copy of Michael Jackson's Thriller in vinyl hanging on the wall right next to me. But I've got a couple of vinyl records framed up, hanging on the wall. But I'm not a vinyl collector. So, as a matter of fact, as far as sound, I hate vinyl. I cannot stand listening to vinyl records. I can't stand that vintage, that vintage sound with the dust hitting the needle and all that. I don't like it at all. I don't like it at all. Give me I would CD quality, clear, clean, digital CD quality sound any day. Mm. Mm. Right here. Savannah Guitar says, "Can't wait to see the Gibbo when you get it." I'm still a ways away from it happening. I'm not quite ready to buy yet. Um, it's going to be a while. So I think I can do it this year. Um, I think maybe even the first half of this year, but I gotta move. I gotta get a couple of things sold, and I gotta save up a little bit more, and I gotta pay down the GC card. Before I can justify pulling the trigger on something that expensive. So, but yeah, hopefully it will happen. Jim Woodard says, "What Gibson are you getting?" Les Paul Custom. Les Paul Custom. I've always wanted. I've been chasing that guitar my entire life, and I've never been able to buy one. So, as every time I've gotten close, something else has gotten in the way, and another expense of some kind. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed. That's that's a guitar I've always wanted. My wife has heard me talking about that thing since we met. Uh, so I'm sure she will glad to see me have it just to shut me up. And yeah, Ebony, just the. They're custom shop models, I guess, but they're production models from the custom shop. But yeah, just the ebony one. I don't need the 57 VOS reissue or the Peter Frampton signature Black Beauty or anything crazy like that. So I've also found the way that they wire up the 3 pickup Black Beauty ones anyway are, that middle pickup is always on, regardless where you had the pickup selector switch. So, just the standard 2 pickup, the standard 2 pickup ebony Les Paul Custom, which is now a $5,000 guitar these days. JG Mopar says the white Les Paul Custom is more than the black. I want a white one, but dang, it's really. I thought they were still going for the same price. Again, depending on the model, just the one I want is $46.99. I thought the Alpine white one was the same price. Last I looked, it was, unless that's changed recently. Jim Woodard says, "Yeah, I'm thinking that's the one I'm gonna get. It'll probably be my second to last big guitar purchase." Yeah, I'm sure it won't be my last big guitar purchase, but it'd be the biggest one I have ever purchased. So, yeah. All right. Well, fellas, I am going to cut it short. Or not cut it short. We've been at this for almost 2 hours. So, which is about right. What we normally do here on Saturdays. So, I'm going to shut it down. Like I said, I got to go run some errands here this afternoon. And, yeah. So, I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my weekend and then eat some food and play some video games and watch the Royal Rumble tomorrow night. And yeah, so I will say, please make sure and check out the video that goes up tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. It was a highly requested video from many of you, and one that I finally caved and did. So thank you all for hanging out. For those of you that supported the channel today, again, thank you all very, very much to every single one of you. And even if you didn't support the channel, thanks again just for being here. That helps as well. So. Thanks, guys. Enjoy your weekend and stay safe.